Hi guys, this is Mike with another video, maybe the last video in this series where I am introducing you to this PC tracking sheet. This is the second half of the downtime video. We're going to focus specifically on buildings and organizations. Just as a quick refresher, a building is a collection of rooms. An organization is a collection of teams. So I may use those words interchangeably, but I don't mean to. They actually are different things. So somewhere out here in your downtime, you would come out here and say that you wanted to construct a building from rooms, or that you wanted to recruit for an organization. They work mechanically pretty much the same way, but they are different things, so there's different entries here for them. You only need 1 day to kick off a building project, or 1 day to kick off a recruitment effort. I may be bending the rules a little bit there, but that makes sense to me. So, you're going to type in, day 1 of 1 if you want to track it there. But again, it only takes you 1 day to build as many rooms as you choose to. You're not limited. It's not like you need a day for every room that you're building. The caveat, however, is that you must have all the resources you need to build something up front. So you can't just start building willy-nilly if you can't afford to do it. The sheet won't really stop you from doing that, so you've just got to stay on top of it and make sure you don't, bend the rules. There are some neat little things about the sheet that will work to your benefit, and by that I mean what will kind of happen is once you build a room and finish its construction, you'll sort of instantly get all of the income that it's going to generate for you for that entire downtime. You'll see this on the sheet when it happens, but that kind of works to your benefit, that you kind of get paid up front, and then you have more resources to work with as you go forward. So it's asking you, how many days is it going to take? Have you completed the Your Buildings entry? And if you want to spend extra labor, or in the case of organizations, extra influence to make all this happen faster, you would type that in here. I can work with you to tell you how much extra it's going to take, but that's basically rules straight out of the book. But unless you're spending extra to make things go faster, you don't log any of the resources, any of the capital that you're spending to make this happen here. You'll do that that's all taken care of sort of automatically on the buildings and organizations tabs, okay? So here all we're doing is saying I'm spending some time putting some rooms together to make a building, or I'm spending some time putting some teams together to make an organization. Once you've made that entry, you're going to want to flip over to Your Buildings or Your Organizations. I realize now that I'm looking at it that it might have been better called My Buildings and My Organizations. But, it's not, and I'm not going to change it now. So, maybe that's the wrong perspective on it. If you're looking for some ideas about what sort of buildings go together to make, a tavern or a temple or whatever, it's entirely up to you to design these the way you want to. But there are some great examples in the Ultimate Campaign book. So you might want to take a look at that if you're looking for some inspiration. The first thing you want to do is say, okay, what is this collection of rooms? What's the intent? What am I going to call these? This is Grimm sheet. He can go out here and, he doesn't have a ton of resources right now. He's not really an entrepreneur, but he's a big fan of the deity Faradorn. He's a paladin of Faradorn, so I think he's going to make a little shrine to Faradorn. It really only will need to be, say, an altar and maybe a statue, a place where people can come and, worship and maybe make a donation or learn a little bit more about his deity. So he needs to come up with a name for it. He's going to call it the altar of hammer and anvil, or something like that. Now the next question is, do you have a manager for this? So this is important that you understand this. Every building that you construct, every organization that you put together has default people looking after it for you. So if he didn't have a specific manager, his little shrine is still going to have somebody that comes by and cuts the grass and touches up the paint and gathers up his donations and that sort of stuff for him without doing anything else. But There's something called attrition that occurs if you don't have a trusted associate looking after your stuff. In the case of organizations, it can cost more for them to kind of, their operating expenses get out of hand a little bit if they don't have a leader looking after them. So it does benefit you to have somebody, but it's not necessary. It's not like you're completely rudderless. The difference is if somebody, if a bunch of gnolls come to destroy this shrine, his little invisible default custodian is probably going to run away, whereas a manager that trusts and loves him, might try to protect it or go get help or whatever. So he actually does have somebody in mind for a manager. What this does is it pulls a list of your contacts in, and that, if you remember from the very first video, I asked you to keep up with your contacts. Grimm's got his filled in out here. You need to keep at least the people that you're going to use as managers and leaders out here. But you could also, I think it'd be cool if you just kind of put everybody you meet out here, which is what Grimm is working on. Fill in the different modifiers to your reputation to get a reputation score over here. He's got a buddy named Mario Betterbrew, who's, if you scoot over, you see he's a fellow vagabond, a devotee of Faradorn. He's a male halfling adept. He's got a great reputation with the guy, so he's going to ask him to manage this little shrine for him, make sure it's in good shape. Since he's asking him for a favor, that's going to cost him a little bit of his reputation. I'll say it cost him 2 points. That's for you to decide. But I'm going to say it cost him 2 points to make this happen. So let's go back to the Your Buildings tab, grab here, and I'm going to say Mario is the guy. So now it wants to know the role. This is a fixed set of potential, skill sets that the person looking after this might have. These are all people with, a good bit of training in a specific area. These are serious individuals. There's not a role out here called my good friend or whatever, because your good friend doesn't have the skill set necessary to do a better job than the default guy that would be looking after it anyway. So you find the thing out here that best matches the person that you've picked. In this case, Mario is probably closest to an abbot. He's a religious figure, so I'm going to say he's an abbot. Since I already knew him, I didn't have to go out and find him through any kind of downtime or whatever. He can start right here at the very first of the month, so that's 9/1/1493. You can always go find your downtime days to make sure you're getting the right dates in here. These dates really matter. All over here, you're entering dates, construction end dates, upgrade dates, that kind of stuff. It's important that you put them in. It's important that you don't do like I've done and put in 2023, because it's not 2023 in Schult, it's 1493. You do have to pay them at least a month of their wages up front. So if you don't have the 120 gold that this Mario gets per month, then you couldn't hire him right now. I'm going to say I'm going to go ahead and pay him for 2 months. So 2 months paid, and that'll pay him through 10/30/1493. All right, so that's knocked down my gold a little bit, but now I know that he's covered and he's not going to get angry at me if I happen to be gone on adventures with you guys for a couple of months. I don't have to worry that he's not getting paid. Because if he's not getting paid, he's going to get cranky and he's not going to be looking after my business. The next thing it wants to know is, what is this person's class? I already told you he's an adept. He may have been a cleric or a paladin or something like that, but in this case, he's an adept, which is sort of the NPC version of a spellcaster. He is trained in diplomacy, heal, local, and religion lore. If there's any notes you want to type in, some of these skills are variable sometimes depending on what class you pick. In that case, you might want to make a note and denote what skill they're actually taken or whatever, or any other notes you want to put there. They start at level 3. They will level up over time, and we'll keep up with what level they are. And then if there was an organization based at this building, which an organization based at this little shrine probably isn't going to happen, but our goal is to eventually turn this into a temple to Faradorn. So there may be, a group of individuals who stay there then, might have some Templars to protect it or something like that. But when I go over here and create organizations, then they would show up as organizations that might stay here. But like I say, number one, I haven't created any organizations. And number two, this little shrine probably isn't the kind of place that an organization would call home. Having an organization based at a place, though, is beneficial to both the place and the organization. So that's something you want to do when you can. All right, so now we've got the name of the place, and we've got our manager going. Let's go ahead and put some rooms in here. Why is my drop down not dropping down? There we go. Wonder why it didn't work there. I need to fix that. That's, you're watching in real time as these things go wrong. Okay. All right, so what are we going to put here? I said I was going to put an altar in, and I also wanted to have a statue. That's probably a good start, and it's enough for us to keep up with for this video. So I'm putting in an altar and a statue. It wants to know, okay, what building are these in? Well, that's going to pull a list from up here. This altar is part of the altar of hammer and anvil, and so is the statue, because I only have one building. If I had more buildings, it'd be a little bit more of a choice. All right, so now I have to do a little bit of work. I started constructing this on Eliant 1, which is 9-1. The numeric dates matter because the sheet can do math on the numeric. So Eliant is the equivalent of September. I started constructing this altar on 9-1, and I can see right here that it takes 4 days to construct. So the construction end date is going to be 9/5/1493. Again, this matters because I won't start earning any resources until construction is complete. Okay? The statue takes 2 days to put up, and all this can happen simultaneously. It doesn't have to daisy chain. So again, I started building this on 9-1. It takes 2 days. Actually, I'm doing this math wrong. If you think about it, 4 days starting on 9-1, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not 1 plus 4. It's just 4. So 4 days, and then 2 days to do the statue, 9-1 and 9-2. It's going to finish on 9-2. So there you go. Those are the dates that this construction will end. The next thing I have to come up with is, what are these things going to do for me? So there's a little note here that says the blue yes cells indicate your valid choices of income type for the selected room. Select from the drop down. Remember, you type in the green, you don't type in the red. This is telling me that the only thing an altar can do for me is give me influence. So when I go over here and grab this, I'm going to choose influence. I'm not prevented from choosing gold, but gold is not a valid choice because it's not in blue. So this is where I need you to participate and only take valid choices. So now this thing is going to modify my income by 3 influence every day. All right, that doesn't mean you get 3 influence a day. That's not how it works. It just modifies the dice roll, that dice roll that you got a 20 on, by the way. So what you want to do is sort of stack these up. When you see how the math works, what you'll see is you want to stack income modifiers up in tens, because that's when it matters to you. And then I've got a statue here. It can bring in gold from people making donations, or just influence from people being impressed by how awesome it is. So I can say this also gives me influence, or this gives me gold. As I've mentioned a couple of times in the past, you want to guard against bringing in a bunch of capital and not bringing in gold, because every bit of capital that you own, every bit of that you earn, whether it's goods or influence or labor or magic, they all will cost you gold for earning them. So don't get too crazy bringing in magic and labor and not think about the fact that you need to cover this with gold. In the grand scheme of things, this probably isn't the greatest example that I could have done for you because it's influence heavy. I'm not getting gold from any other places. I'm making a kind of a tiny place with an expensive manager. None of this is really all that smart, but it at least is showing you how the sheet works. You're going to want to monkey with the numbers, and I can give you advice on this stuff. You'll see how it works. The room descriptions, as I keep saying, I type this stuff in. I think you should read it because this is where you'll find where I've changed what the room does. Again, I haven't taken away any benefits, but I have in many cases added benefits to having these rooms. So it's really worth looking at. For instance, if this shrine is in the middle of you guys' little enclave, your compound, and somebody stands near it when they cast a consecrate or a hallow, the area of it is doubled. So that can be pretty handy if you guys are under attack from a million undead from the jungle. Somebody runs over there, stands next to this, and consecrates. Boom. Then the last thing we need to fill in here is if for some reason we upgrade this or we sell it, we shut it down for some reason because it's something we don't want anymore or whatever, we put the last day of service in over here, because if we don't, it will continue to add resources to us, and it shouldn't if we're not actually in possession of it anymore. So that would remain blank unless you upgrade it or shut it down. If you upgrade it, what's going to happen is this altar, well, an altar can't be upgraded, but if it was an animal pen, it would turn into an animal pen upgraded, and then whatever you upgraded it to would be entered down below. There are specific instructions right here on how to upgrade a room. You can handle it yourself. It doesn't cost you any downtime, but of course, feel free to ask me questions about it or get me to review it, when and if you want to do it. The one rule that you need to really, really, really stick to here is once you set this income type, you can't change it without coming over here to your downtime activities and selecting change room team income type and getting me to manage you changing it. Because once this guy starts bringing in gold, if you just come out here and change it to influence in the middle of the month, then all your gold is going to disappear and you're suddenly going to get a bunch of influence, and that's not right. We need to record how much gold you got, and then you're going to spend a day telling your staff to do something different so you can start bringing in influence. We'll make a new entry, have it bring in influence with a new start date, and put an end date on the old one. Doesn't really matter if you understood what I just said or not. We'll take care of it when the time comes. The main thing you need to understand is don't change this income type once you're set on what you're doing. You can change it, just in the moment while you're looking at it. But once we all agree that it's up and running, you got to leave it alone. That is basically it. You come through here and add all your buildings, and this, these buildings can be part of different, these rooms can be part of different buildings. If you decide you're going to build a bar, that you call, Grimm's Place, come in and put it up here. Figure out who you're going to get to run it for you. If you don't have somebody appropriate, then you may have to go meet some new friends and just take the default manager for a while. If you've got none here, you've got nothing else to fill out up here. All the rest is about your manager. And then you come down here and start putting together the parts that you need for your tavern that you want to make. And now you can say, hey, this bar is part of Grimm's Place, and so on and so on. I can use a bar to bring in gold or influence. Here's a great way for me to start getting more gold in to pay for all this influence that my shrine is bringing in, and so on and so on and so on. Again, be sure you fill in your dates when this stuff is finished. A bar takes a while to build. If you didn't start till, say, the 3rd on this, it's not going to be finished till, the 18th. So, work all that stuff out. I think this is pretty straightforward. It's keeping up with a tally. of how much you've spent over time getting these buildings constructed. So for these three rooms that I've put together, I've spent 9 goods, 2 influence, 9 labor, and 1 magic. I can always go back to this very first tab, this data summary, and see where I'm at. I'm not in the negative on any of this yet, which is good, because if I was, that would, make me unhappy. One thing you'll see here with the resources in is the sheet, as I mentioned at the start of this video, the sheet already knows that you've got downtime for 30 days. So it's gone ahead, since you've said that you know the completion date on these rooms, these construction end dates, then it's gone ahead and accumulated your influence and your gold income for you for this altar and statue. It hasn't done it for the bar yet because you haven't typed in a construction end date, so it doesn't know how much money to give you. But it does know for the altar and the statue that beginning on 9/4 and ending on 9/30, or beginning on 9/2 and ending on 9/30, that you brought in resources. And in this case, you brought in 87 gold and 81 influence, which ain't nothing, You'll also know if you go to resources out that you had to pay for all that capital that came in, 1,215 gold. So that's also not nothing. Like I said, it costs a fortune to pay for this capital. So you better have the money to cover it. And then it's also already deducting your 2 months of leader wages that you've paid in advance. So all that nets out to what you see here: incoming gold, incoming goods, outgoing, and so on. It should have the outgoing goods here from constructing the rooms, and I must not have that linked up. By the time you guys see this sheet, that will be linked up. The stuff here doesn't look like it's being deducted, so I'll add that over there. That's why I need you guys QA this sheet for me. Lastly is the your organizations tab. It works exactly like the one you just saw, except this is for you to go out and put a team together. So let's say that he wants to get a group of Holy Faradorn gang. The Holy Faradorn gang is what he's calling his bunch. Has he got a leader for it? He can't use Mario because Mario's already a manager of his other group over there. But if he found somebody, he would grab them here. I don't really have a good person. But if I did, I'd come through, pick them, fill them all out the exact same way. And then when I came down here, well, at the very end of this, I should point out, it wants to know, okay, where are those guys using as a base? And maybe they're using the Bar of Grimm's base place as a hangout, or they can't really, like I said, it's kind of hard to imagine them using that altar as a base, but you could attach a little shack to it or someplace for them to sleep, and suddenly you'd have a base for them. Either way, you come out here and say if they've got a base, because it benefits them to have a base. They get twice as much money as if they don't. They earn twice as much money as if they don't. And then you'd come out here and build your team. Okay, I'm going to have some acolytes, or an acolyte, and I'm going to have, just some basic soldiers. And then you fill everything in the same way as you did before. Read the prompts that I've given you. Put in your recruitment end date so it knows when to start accumulating the resources that you're earning. Watch the blue entries and only choose blue when you say, yeah, this acolyte actually makes magic for me. And these soldiers, they earn me gold. Okay, so, and again, you scoot out here. If for some reason you ever disband these groups because, I don't know, they're costing you too much, or you're moving on, or whatever, if there's a role play reason to, then we'll put their last day of service out here. Some of these guys can be upgraded. An acolyte, I think, upgrades to like a priest, or a priest. So if we ever wanted to upgrade our acolyte, we'd change them to acolyte upgraded, and then we'd come out here and add our priest. Again, rules for how to do that are down here. It's important that you manage it correctly. I'll reiterate that these dates really, really matter, and these dates do as well. So I think that's more or less it. We've talked about keeping your contacts going. We've talked about where you build your organizations, where you build your buildings, and the downtime activities that are necessary to support it. We noticed one little problem with the way the math's working there, and I'll fix that before you ever see this sheet, I'll fix that. And I think that takes care of it. I hope that made sense. And if you have any questions, please let me know.